Iwo Jima, February 1945. As the Americans came closer to the Japanese mainland, fighting in the Pacific grew still more bitter. The bombardment crumbled one side of Iwo's key bastion, Mount Suribachi, but it took 5 bloody days for the Marines to fight their way to its summit. When the Marines set out to place a conqueror's flag on Suribachi, they still encountered resistance. But they persevered, and the flag was raised. Unfortunately, it lacked properly heroic proportions. Something would have to be done.
It was too small to be seen by anybody. So the commanding general down there figured, we better get a bigger flag. So they went out and got some of the LSTs that were there, and one of the LST commanders said, well, when we stopped at Pearl, we got a big flag, but we've never flown it. My boss came to me and said, would you make sure that you send photographers up, because this is going to be considered the official flag raising. So I said, sure, and I got in touch with Janouse and Bob Campbell. Bill Janouse was a movie man, Bob Campbell was still, and they hooked up with Rosenthal going up the hill.
That was Joe Rosenthal of the Associated Press, a civilian photographer who had taken these pictures of the landing. These are the shots Janouse took on that second climb. A few days later, he would be killed in action. He would not live to see the images he made.
People would always contest whether or not this was the first or whether the other one was the first and everything else. But Bob Campbell didn't like the position that the other two cameramen were in, so he got off a little bit over to the side, and he's got a beautiful picture of the first flag coming down and the second one going up at the same time.
It was Rosenthal, however, who got the immortal shot, and a lifetime's controversy, for he shipped all his pictures back unseen and undeveloped.
Joe gets on a boat about 4 days later and goes to Guam, and he's bombarded by all the press guys there saying, well, what was this picture? They had seen it now, but they wanted to know what he thought about it, and he says, I don't know. He said, maybe it's that picture I posed with all the men under the flagpole and the typical bonsai raising their rifles. And that word posed got into the lexicon of the problem. It's hung in there for years and years and years. That thing we have fought for 50 years to try to straighten out. And I thought at the end of the 50th anniversary we had it pretty well resolved. But I think it'll probably go on for another 50.
The comparison between the movie footage and Rosenthal's image is definitive. He took exactly the same shot Janouse did from virtually the same position. This controversy, to some degree, masks the real story of Iwo Jima, its cost. Almost 7,000 Marines died here, along with 21,000 Japanese. The Marines were awarded 27 medals of honor, more than in any other engagement.